Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Painting with Picasso's Grapevine. My name is Leanna Hahn and I will be your host and teacher for today. Today we're starting to think about fall some more. So we have in front of us this really cool painting titled Swirly Whirly Wind. Really easy, lots of fun. We're just going to practice some more of our swirling, some more of our blending, just kind of getting some very light colors, light techniques, get that out onto the canvas, and then we're going to play with our tree a little bit more. So we've covered some trees in the past, but trees really take a lot of effort, just learning and understanding how they're formed, what's the natural dimension, and how to get that tree from a base all the way up to those tip tops, let it form up naturally. And we've got a little owl in there, and he's kind of fun. So to go ahead and get started, we're going to get a check on our supplies today. Today I'm only going to use 2 brushes. I have about a number 6 filbert here and then a number 1 flat. As always, we are using our acrylic paints, and today I have some black, I have cad yellow, I have phthalo blue, and I have some pink. So really nice cool colors. As always, we're going to have a dab rag handy for our paints and then a cup of water to wash our paints off. So before we start, we always kind of look at our painting and say, okay, where am I going to place things? Where am I starting first? What's the foreground? What's the background? So for us, we're definitely going to be working on this swirling background first. We're going to decide where our circle is and kind of move our swirls in around here, bringing them out to the bottom, letting that dry, and then going in on top of it with our tree. Now we're going to go very light, and this is kind of where we're going to differentiate from some of our other blending techniques, because we're going to be using a little bit more water. We want this a really light effect all the way through. So to get started, let's go ahead and remove our original, and we're going to start on a blank white canvas. This is a 16 by 20. I'm going to grab that medium brush, dip it in water, dab it off a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and start with our blue. Now this is our phthalo blue. So let's kind of liquefy it just a little bit. We don't want a lot going onto the canvas. Do very light first, sparingly, and we can add more color as we move on. So we're going to decide right here is kind of where our circle is going to start. So get that technique kind of moving, get a nice feel for the circular motion here, and then kind of decide where you're going to move out. This swirl is going to go right up off the canvas. So we're going to go back to our paint. I'm going into my water first and really dabbing just a very little bit. You're going to see on your paper plate here that it becomes very liquefied and becomes a little watery. We want to put, again, very small amounts on to start out with, and then adding more. Because this is so light, this is going to go really, really fast. So it's a nice, fun, easy painting to do. And it's a great first time painting. So if you've never tried this before, this is a fun one to start out with. Now the biggest thing I'm going to see with people is that they're going to get drips coming in. So if you get drips, no problem. We can fix them. Generally, you want to fix them with white. You always put white on top of your problem area, and then wait for that to dry, then go on top of it with your color that you want to actually get back onto the canvas. Water will rip off and peel off any paint that you've already placed onto the canvas. So very nice. Got our first one going. So let's go ahead and move into our second swirl, which is going to come like right underneath here. We're going to leave a small space here, and let's just kind of take it off the canvas. It's going to start smaller on the top and kind of grow towards the bottom. Super light. Grab a little more. Get it to the color you like. And we're going to let it grow just a tad more off to the right. Now my strokes are going really either way, but they're consistent. So I'm not stopping anywhere in the middle. If I start at the top, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. If I start at the bottom, I'm going to come all the way to the top. And that's a nice way to get that smooth moving stroke across your canvas. All right. Now, the next color we're going to move into is our yellow. So I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow. I don't have as much water moved into my yellow. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start out with just a little bit of solid yellow and just kind of move in through here. Now, as you get closer to your blue, you're going to notice you've got a little bit of a tinge of green happening when the two connect. If you like that, that's cool. If you don't like that, let your blue dry before you move on to the yellow. That's the best answer. And we're just kind of moving all the way around and moving off the canvas. And again, I'm really not pushing too hard to get a lot of paint covering the canvas. I kind of like this very sparing kind of look, very light, very soft. Let's go ahead and move our second piece right below the blue and do the same thing. Again, if you've got a little bit of that crossover happening, I like it. If you don't like it, let the blue dry first before you add yellow. Very light. All right. Then our last color that we're going to go ahead and add in is this really cool magenta. It's a nice pink, very brilliant. Same thing. We're going to grab our pink and we're going to grab some water, just kind of liquefy it a little bit just to lighten it up. And we're going to come in maybe around here. Kind of let the starts of your strokes blend a little bit into the center of your swirl. You'll notice again my strokes are continuing. I don't do a lot of stops and starts in the center. Try to keep those strokes constantly moving so it looks like one fluid, continuous swirl. Bringing this down below the blue. And you see what a very light amount I have on here. We're going to make the bottom of this pink one a little bit thicker. Kind of bring it out. There we go. Just a nice, cool, big, round, fluid movement, very easy to achieve. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go in back on top of the colors that we've already placed on here. We'll start with the blue, we'll go to the yellow and the pink as well. And we'll put a little bit more of a solid line in there. So go ahead and wash off your brush. We're going to go back into that blue. We're not going to liquefy it this time. We're going to grab a little bit of that. And let's just kind of start some swirls. What I'm looking to do is just make a little bit of a definition to show some difference between the very light swirl and now what I'm placing on is the very dark swirl. Not covering it entirely, just kind of putting some interest. There you go. And then we'll do the same down here. Just kind of giving it a little bit of a two-dimensional feel so that it's not all one color. Very light. And then we're going to do the same thing with our pink. Now, the yellow is actually pretty translucent as it is right now, so I'm not thinking I'm going to go back in with another solid yellow. I think I'm going to skip that, let that remain translucent, and then we'll go into the pink. And don't be afraid to lay some paint down. I'm using the side of my paintbrush very softly, letting it kind of land on the canvas, and then continuing down. So I like that breaking effect, so I'm going to let that remain. If you like more of that, really adjust those lines to what is pleasing to your eye. I'm just kind of getting a nice combination in here. Just saying, all right, something's going on. All right, and then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and add some yellow to that very, very last portion of white that we have out here. Extremely light, because we're going to go in on top of this. Now, normally at home, you'd have some opportunity for your canvas to dry. So we are going to be very, very sparing. Just put a little bit of yellow in the background here, just so we know something's going on. And I'm letting my strokes kind of move up into the swirls there. Again, putting more pressure right here and letting it flick off the canvas as I get to the center. Just kind of fun. I did say lastly, but I didn't mean lastly. There is one more. We'll do the bottom blue portion. Our goal here is to go ahead and get some color on most all of the canvas. We'll go ahead and get some coverage on that. Now go ahead and play with this. Get the texture that you want. Add some white if you'd like to lighten it up. If you're getting some dimpling, that's a good sign that you need to put either some more paint or put some water on there. Go ahead and get that covered. Very nice. Play with your transitions. Feel free to add yellow if you don't like that transition, or you can go over it with blue. Either is fine. And then I think what we may do is we add a little blue one on the top as well. So we'll go in, grab a little water, again using that same effect, and then kind of finishing that up. Okay. So we got this nice swirly effect going here. So very cool. Now again, if you're at home, you would get the opportunity to go ahead and let this dry for a little bit. We've got a light amount of paint on the canvas here, so it should be drying pretty quickly. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our nice little tree. So just a refresher, our tree is down here on the right. This is a very old tree, so we're going to work on forming that tree, getting those kind of nice crickety old branches, and just kind of how do you build a tree from the base all the way up. So to do that, we're going to again use our number 1 flat brush. Let's go ahead and get that moist. And then we're going to start here. So decide where you're going to place your tree. Go ahead, and the base of the tree is always wider. And then you're going to make your tree as wide as you like. Just keep in mind, the wider it is, the taller it's going to need to go to end up into a very tip-top branch. So now we're going to kind of get out and get a little funky here. So again, these particular branches, you'll never want to have a branch go straight out. It always has to start from the base and build out. So the center here, or the portion that's attached to the main part of the tree, is always going to be wider, and it's going to be gradual. So as you make these limbs, carry them out and make them crooked. Do not make them straight. All tree limbs are crooked. At any time when you want, you can go ahead and start filling in that tree. You want to make your edges nice and lumpy. There's lots of knots in those trees. There's bark. This is an old tree. And again, it's at the end of the season, so all the trees, all the leaves have fallen off. So it's bare, and we're getting this nice, cool silhouette. Now, as I'm adding more limbs, make sure your limbs are starting very thick at the base and continue on. Go ahead and fill them in. Limbs in general will go out. They will go up and out. They rarely grow down. You will have some occasionally, and that's okay. But the large ones in particular, for the most part, will grow up and out. So you want to make sure that your limbs are facing that way. The further away from your base, you're going to make sure that your limbs are very small. And just kind of continue up. Make some nice V's. This is a cool, messy tree. So don't worry too much about where those limbs go. Let them cross over each other. That's kind of a neat thing. People tend to space them out proportionately. I like to have mine cross over, because that's exactly how they grow. There's a whole combination of where those limbs are moving to. I'm just filling in the bottom here. Again, you can let this dry. This is acrylics, and this is really good for layering, so you can come back later after it's dry, add another layer of black, and get a nice solid feel. Now, in our original, we had a cool owl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this owl a little place to sit. He needs a spot. So we're going to call that the owl house. And for that particular owl, pretty easy. We're going to start with an oval for the head. We're going to want to make this oval a little rounded. And then we're going to take up 2 little swooshes. That's going to be the ears. Go ahead and bring the body down. Fill that in. And if you feel like your owl's body is too long, just bring up that limb. Bring it up, kind of building it so. And as well, you can add in a little bit of feathers down here at the bottom. So this is kind of neat. And you can do this with this really cool brush. I like the edges. They're really awesome for getting in those tiny little details. Just a few. But you kind of get the gist of it. All right. So let this tree kind of carry up the canvas. It's a really old one. Let the limbs kind of cross over each other. You notice I've made it quite thick down here at the base. If you're feeling that it's too thick down here at the base, that's a good time to add in a V. So I've added in a V, and we've got different limbs carrying out and continuing on. Cross over if you need to. Building up your tree as you move up. Also, if you're noticing that your paint is having a hard time, move across the canvas. Don't forget, that's a good signal that you need to add more water or more paint. Make all of your little limbs different sizes. And I'll notice that sometimes people make their branches too thick and they have to kind of continue them out. That's cool. That's the best way to fix it. Just continue it out and let it go right off the canvas. There you go. All right, now the last step on this particular painting is we're going to add a little bit of splatter paint because it's cool, it's in the fall, it's kind of a spooky night. Everybody loves splatter paint. So to do that, I'm going to grab some water on my paintbrush and I'm going to liquefy the paint here. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this. There's a messy way and there's a not so messy way. The best way, which is the non-messy way, is kind of a controlled splatter. So go ahead, remove your canvas, place it on a flat surface, and then do just kind of a flicking motion. So how much is enough? How much is too much? That's totally up to you. When you are happy with the amount of water that you have on here, now it's going to be very liquefied, so if I turn this straight up, you're going to get some drooling right down there. So you want to let this sit on a flat surface until you're done, and then you've got a pretty cool painting. Pretty easy. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have found some great tips and suggestions, and hopefully we have taken the scary out of starting a painting at home. If you have any questions or would like to learn how to paint one of these awesome paintings at Picasso's Grapevine, send us an email to info@picassosgrapevine. Thank you for joining us.